Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. 21 plus, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario, new customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
I'm sure people went to bed thinking that game was over, and then voila, wake up in the morning, 41-40 Buffalo, what the hell happened?
By the way, speaking of Illinois, I am outside of a tailgate.
We applaud Lane Kiffin for being aware of this, but he knows. There's nothing wrong with admitting that you know the number.
You just stare at the ceiling and you wonder, why? Why, Lord, why?
We have Dog with Fleas this weekend, and they're both these teams.
John Mateer, right there, right near the top.
The Jerry Jeudy prop he got exactly the yardage needed to get 66 total yards to go over.
They just created their own lab in Breaking Bad in an RV, so you can cook something up in your own lab right there. Not profile like a 10-win team. They profile like 7-win type teams.
I can't wait to let 18 to 22-year-olds push it.
I made a call, to Vegas. I said, look, we actually need the paper.
Welcome again to Bear Bets, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. DraftKings Sportsbook is the best place to bet touchdowns this season. And this week, new customers who bet $5, you get up to $200 in bonus bets paid instantly. Download the app, use the promo code BEARBETS. That's BEARBETS, BEARBETS, 2 words when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. Joined again by Sammy P. and Geoff Schwartz. How did the old DK Sportsbook treat us this past weekend?
I think okay. I had a good contest week. I did well on the show. I did well on the picks I give out social media, and my Ducks covered fairly easily. The first wager.
How was that? Week, that was. We talked about that. We thought it was going to be every bit of the Colorado game a couple of years ago, and it was probably worse than that.
Probably. I mean, Oregon led up. I mean, we joked for a while, like Oregon in that game, we took the over 42.5 against Colorado. They didn't even get there. Yeah, scored 69 points. And gave up in the second half on offense. I already wagered on them. They're 27.5 on the road in Northwestern. I don't know what's different about this week. So, Sammy, I'm in on my Ducks, and unfortunately, you faded your Wisconsin Fighting Illini. It didn't go well for any of us.
Last time I checked, Wisconsin was the Badgers. Let's correct that real quick. And then Illinois is the Fighting Illini. I think that was a Freudian slip there, Bear. By the way, speaking of Illinois, I am outside of a tailgate at Bears Vikings right now. If you couldn't tell, I'm inside a car outside the tailgate. Wild times right now. I had Illinois. That's my alma mater. Not great. Not very happy about it. Although now everybody in the country is telling me that Illinois should have been a 6-point favorite at Duke, because it's always fun to play that game, right, Bear?
So let's see. I was in the Delta Club on Friday. You're at a Bears Vikings Monday night game tailgate today. Geoff, where are you going to be Thursday? Because you can't bet. That means you can't be where you're supposed to be. You got to be somewhere else.
Well, Thursday. Well, we were both delayed Thursday, right, Bear? We both had to leave Friday morning out of New York.
Yeah.
Look, I don't want to turn this into a podcast of griping at airline travel.
Sure, we do. But people want. People love seeing us be normal people.
I live in the South. Okay. I live in Charlotte. I live in the South. We have thunderstorms all the time. The airport still functions. Like it still makes. I don't understand how the New York City airports. You were LaGuardia. I was at Newark. How the airports just shut down because there was weather in the area. It wasn't there was weather there. It was weather in the area, and they rescheduled my flight for. I think I ended up leaving at 1:30 in the morning. I just stayed till Friday. I know you had to didn't get to Iowa forever. It was just frustrating because I live in a part of the country that just flies no matter what the storm is. Maybe we're down for a couple minutes, and New York just said, "Nah, we're out of here." And another thing too. Why? So we get in the plane, okay? We push back, and we're on the tarmac. Okay,
here we go.
And the pilot goes, "Hey, we're out of hours."
Why'd you push back?
Correct. Like, why would you put someone on the plane that would be out of hours with a slight delay? That to me is like you're setting up for a recipe for disaster when you do that. I've never. That's happened many times to me. I don't get that concept of like, hey, let's push back if we're delayed at all. Like that's the end of the time we can fly, and so we have to go back. But nonetheless, this Thursday, I hope I'm back home because I'll be Friday in Chicago, in Evanston, with you, Bear. Big New Kickoff. I'm not going to be in Big New Kickoff, but I will be in spirit there watching you live before Oregon plays Northwest. I can't wait to be in Chicago this weekend.
Yeah, it'll be good to see your Ducks up close and personal on Saturday. But yeah, Sammy mentioned the Illinois game, and look, congratulations, Illinois fans, you won the game. But I had someone tweet me, and of course had to tag Brett Bielema and tag Illinois football just to make his point home about was that game close, dude? If you and I watched the same game and you thought that game was a blowout, we watched. There's no way we watched the same game. Look. Congratulations, Illinois. You took advantage. You had a turnover advantage of high leverage turnovers. Duke had an interception at your 12 going in. Duke muffed the punt on their own 18. Duke fumbled at your 13 going in. They fumbled. Running back didn't switch the ball going inside the 40 again. They were easy points. They scored 17 points in the fourth quarter to make the final very deceiving of what it was. But congrats. You won the game. Now you're a 4-touchdown favorite this week against Western Michigan in a vintage look-ahead spot with the big game you have coming up next week in Indiana. So you won the game. I guess he who laughs last wins. But to say that Sammy and I and everyone else out there who had Duke this week were on the wrong side, I'd make that bet 10 out of 10 more times. And it's funny. I can't remember. Was it you, Sammy, or was it you? Someone shared in our chat about, like, I think it was the John Ewing tweet about the last 2 weeks, the 5 most public sides in week 1, and then the 5 most public sides in week 2. The only one that won was Illinois, which probably wasn't the right side anyways. So it very easily could be 0 for 10 ATS in like the 5 biggest public sides each week.
But I think people have this notion that if they make a bet that wins, that it was the right bet, and that's fine. But if you line these 2 teams up tomorrow and gave me 3.5 points with Duke, I would bet it again. Now, some people would call me a full-right nerd or stupid or whatever, and that's fine. If Illinois turns teams over 5 times a game, though, they're going to go to the playoff and they might win the whole thing, guys.
Correct.
I mean, if
they can allow 7 yards of play all year long if they're going to do that.
And I watched the O-line, Jeff. I don't know. Duke was working them on the O-line. Duke's D-line was getting whatever it wanted, but then when you start turning the ball over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, eventually the dam breaks, and that's what happened. Look, it's a great win. I'm not going to get involved in week 3. We'll talk about it. And a huge game. Likely Illinois will be 3-0 going to Bloomington to take on last year's Illinois, Indiana.
I can't wait to put Indiana in that game. Right. It's going to be, I can't wait to do it.
What was Indiana 1.5, Sammy? You think maybe we're looking ahead 2 weeks, somewhere around there? I know you probably.
If Illinois is 3-0, man, they're going to be favored.
You think so in Bloomington?
Oh yeah.
Well, Bloomington, Indiana, I should say.
I'm very glad they take them.
It's funny, but if there was a game, if there was a bet that I could have back, it would be Virginia Tech. That was just an embarrassment. If there were the head first coach to be fired, props up. I think Brent Pry would probably be the favorite right now. Like, you're up 20-17 in the third quarter. You got 4th and a foot from your own 34.5-yard line, and you punt. It was a surrender punt. They didn't stop Vandy the rest of the game. So, if I could have one bet, because you know how we joke about too, about how there are people we love to fade. And later in the week, after I talked about Virginia Tech and liking Virginia Tech, someone I love to fade also had a Virginia Tech, and right then and there, I knew I was done. So I'd love to have the Hokies back, Sammy. Sammy, I know, again, just like Illinois and Duke, we wouldn't love to have Kansas back because, again, right side, wrong result, brother.
Yeah, this episode will be me mostly complaining about what happened on Saturday. Unfortunately, when you're up by 3 with 5 minutes to go, catching 6.5, you have a pretty good chance to cover that one, right? That was what was happening in that game. In the border war, 31-28, Kansas up 3. Missouri scores. Missouri forces a Kansas punt, which, oh, by the way, Kansas dropped a wide open pass on 3rd down that would have been 1st down. We get over that. We move on. And then all we need as a Kansas conglomerate is the clock to run out. We need 1 1st down.
Yep.
And Missouri decides, nah, we're going to bust a 63-yard touchdown run. The crew had Kansas. I had Kansas. man, what do you do? You just stare at the ceiling and you wonder why, Lord, why? It is what it is, man. That's betting on football.
And Geoff, like, there is a lesson to all this. Yeah, it sounds like we're sour grapes. Oh, we lost. We made a bad bet or a good bet. But what was me? But there is a lesson in looking at box scores like Duke, Illinois, looking at box scores like Kansas, Missouri. Like, the finals always aren't indicative of what happened within the game. Like, this can create potential plays, potential value moving forward. If you go back and look, and like, someone will say, oh, wow, Illinois beat Duke 45-19 or whatever it was. Wow. And then you go back and look and you're like, yeah, well, they were outgained. They allowed 7 yards of play, 21 points off turnovers and inside their own. Like there are lessons to be learned from, like, going back and studying a lot of these games.
There is, and this is why some of the analytics, I think, are important when it comes to breaking these teams down, right? Because efficiency numbers tell a true story about a team throughout a season, right, Bear? It might not tell a team in the game. And also, post-game win expectancy. People hate that. They hate to see that a team that won a game really wasn't supposed to win a game, Bear, but that sometimes is the way it works. The turnovers and special teams and things like that. I'm trying to find the post-game win expectancy for the Duke game. But I mean, that again, turnovers play a big factor in that. And, again, Kansas should have covered. I do think we get in a situation where we talk about the term bad beat too much. Kansas was a bad beat. Duke wasn't a bad beat. Just we lost. Like, that just happens.
No.
And the one that frustrates me, we were arguing with our producer about this, is, look, Kentucky covering at the end against Ole Miss was not a bad beat. They were covering for 98% of that game. They didn't cover the last minute and then came back and kicked a field goal to cover again. That's not it's annoying that you lost if you were on Ole Miss.
Correct.
It's not a bad beat. You were never within the number for the entire game to the last 3 minutes, or it actually might have been the last 2 minutes. Kentucky drives down, kicks a field goal, and tries to do the onside kick Hail Mary situation. The Kansas one was bad. I was watching that game live, and not to beat a dead horse here, the guys were just running down the sidelines. I'm like, just go out of bounds, fall down, something happened, because obviously when that happened, it just felt like Kansas was never going to be able to make up the difference, and they didn't. So it's hard for people to accept that sometimes, and that's why I like using analytics as far as just efficiency numbers, because that tells I think a better picture sometimes of what a team can be moving forward. But it gives us an opportunity to fade teams, right? You see the results already looking ahead to next week. Some of these numbers have moved so much. You're like, are we over exaggerating off of a couple results? So opportunities for us all around.
And by the way, we applaud Lane. I was going to say, Sammy, we applaud Lane Kiffin for being aware of this. But I remember there was some instances back at FAU. He knows. There's nothing wrong with admitting that you know the number. It's great.
I love the awareness around the number, for sure. Rather than talk about everything I lost over the weekend or on Saturday, can we talk about a game that we got right? Oklahoma, Michigan. Hit the under.
Yep.
Did have Oklahoma. And I believe we hinted at potentially looking at John Mateer in the Heisman market. He was 20-25 to 1 going into that game against Michigan. And now you look at the board, take a look at DraftKings. Right near the top. I believe
he's the favorite now, right?
John Mateer, right there, right near the top. So that was a pretty decent handicap on our part. Michigan doesn't appear to have the speed on the outside, which I think we discussed in our preview episode coming into the season. Defensively, they're still mean. They're still tough up front. But Oklahoma, what a turnaround they did offensively. And it's nice when you have receivers. Last year, their top 4 receivers either transferred or got hurt. Oklahoma's got some guys now, and that'll be a sneaky team. The schedule gets very tough for them. Yeah. But if they get quarterback play like they did from John Mateer against Michigan, they're going to be a sneaky team in the SEC.
The second bet that I made this week was Temple plus 26.5. Because this is the mother of all sandwich spots that you ever created. You got that win against Michigan last week. You've got Auburn coming in next week. You're playing at Temple. You're going to Lincoln Financial. God only knows how many people are going to be there. And I think it's down to like 24.5 now. So that is a vintage sandwich garbage spot. But you're right. Oklahoma and the Mateer bets, he certainly took a lot of money. Geoff, I don't want to let you get away without your bad beat of the weekend. We talked about college, but you had a nice one in the NFL, right?
I had some bad beats. I had one. I mean, Texas wasn't a bad beat, I guess. That's a bet I want to have back. But in the NFL, dude, the Jerry Jeudy prop just, you bet these unders, okay? And look, you know that garbage time happens, but the Browns were needing 90 yards to score and win that game, and they even had a false start or penalty that put him back. And then Jerry Jeudy caught a pass there, the final play of the game. No lateral, no nothing. He got exactly the yardage needed to get 66 total yards and go over. He actually fought for more yards. Like, he caught the ball, was in the grasp, fought for 3 more yards, no lateral, nothing, and he ended with 66 yards. And look, we all have these. I mean, if you were on the Ravens last night, you probably felt the same way. But it's just a gut punch, like you think you get it right. You haven't marked it as a win yet, but in your head, you're like, I got this, and then it almost happened yesterday with Ted McMillan as well. He did go over, but he ended up catching a few more passes there at the end. But man, just a gut punch when a wide receiver does that at the end.
Yeah, and then of course Sunday night's game, I should say, that I'm sure people went to bed thinking that game was over, and then voila, wake up in the morning, 41-40 Buffalo. What the hell happened? So wild swings in the NFL last night. Sammy, let's go back to college football. What line have you either bet or noticed, or games that you're looking forward to about some line movement here? Because I mean, like Geoff hinted at before, there have been a ton of games that have moved a great deal.
Well, market is moving against 2 teams that I would be very careful with: Clemson and Georgia. There's a chance we can lay 3.5 with Georgia against Tennessee.
I already just laid 3.5 with Georgia, man. I saw 3.5, and I'm like, I'm not going to take a chance that it's going to go back down to 3. I'm going to bet it right now.
I understand it. Maybe Circa was a little high on the open. They did open these markets up on Sunday. Georgia -6 against Tennessee, and Clemson -6 against Georgia Tech. The lines are both either 4 or 3.5, depending on where you shop. I may be cooking up, Geoff, a Georgia Clemson money line parlay. I'm not in the lab right now. I'm in a car on the side of the road in Chicago. But when I get back to the lab tonight or Tuesday morning, I may have to do a little Georgia Clemson money line parlay.
They didn't need to go. They just created their own lab in Breaking Bad in an RV. So you can cook something up in your own lab right there.
Bear likes the term dog with fleas, right? And I'm a simpleton, and for a long time I didn't really sort of get. I got it, but didn't really maybe want to get. I don't know. But Bear, we have dog with fleas this weekend, and they're both these teams, right? I mean, look at the line movement. Georgia Tech, I get it. Like, I like their style of play, and Clemson has certainly struggled, and they came back late against Troy and won that game by 11 and looked kind of piss poor doing it. But like, Georgia Tech didn't look great against Colorado. They won that game with 3 turnovers. Like, I don't know why that number is moving so much. Look at Tennessee, Georgia, look, we've seen a couple of things. It's actually interesting to note. Rain delays so far. We've had a couple of them in college, big ones, like UCF, week 1, I think it was UCF, Jacksonville State. That game went way under, okay? Georgia, Austin Peay, big rain delay, went way under afterwards. Clemson, Troy, long rain delay this weekend, no points. NFL, Panthers and Jaguars, went rain delay, went under. Cowboys, Eagles, rain delay, went under. How can you judge Georgia off a big rain delay against Austin Peay? That game means nothing for them whatsoever. And so for the number to move this violently because of basically a rain-shortened game where they kind of just like, when you go, look, man, when you go in the locker room for an hour and a half, there's nothing to do. Like, your body cools way down, that adrenaline goes down. You just become a different type of player. You're just not as alert, not as good, not as fresh. And so it makes sense that Georgia struggled against Austin Peay after the rain delay, Bear. So I don't get this violent movement to Tennessee. I think Georgia's still really good. I think Clemson's going to be fine. And again, Georgia Tech is good, we think, but the movement, dog with fleas, Bear. I get it now.
Dang, I'm glad we can educate you, but you're right. I mentioned the second bet I made was Temple plus 26.5. The first bet I made was Georgia Tennessee under 50.5, because I think this is a defensive game. I don't think Tennessee scored 20 under Josh Heupel against Kirby Smart. And one of the things with Georgia, and the market certainly is not factoring it in, is Georgia's going to get 2 offensive linemen back that got hurt in the first quarter of the first game of the year. Probably their 2 best offensive linemen are going to be back. And remember, last year they ran the ball on Tennessee with a bunch of backup offensive linemen to begin with. Granted, it was in Athens. So I think there were a couple of groups that played Tennessee plus north of a touchdown, and that's why this number has come down some. I would expect there to be some buyback in this game, which is why I mentioned to Sammy and cut him off before saying that I laid 3.5, and I'm going to see if we can get maybe a 3.5 with Clemson as well. I'm curious about line movement in Miami USF. Are people going to be betting USF off of the upset win in Gainesville? And Miami having USF now. Miami has Florida next week. That's a game to potentially look at any potential line movement as well. How does LSU hit 10 against Florida after Florida's lost last week, and LSU kind of having the predictable sleepy game against Louisiana Tech? A lot of games. Duke, by the way, they go out and spend $3 million or whatever it was to get Darian Mensah from Tulane. Now you're going to Tulane this week, and you're an underdog after you cost Sammy P, Geoff, and I money next week. Jeff, is there another game on there, a game or a line that you might be looking at?
So I bet 2 so far. I took Oregon again, minus 27.5 at Northwestern. They've been 27.5-point favorites in the first 2 games. They won very handily. I don't really see why Northwestern would make this competitive. Bear, it's at Northwestern. I get it, but their stadium seats 15,000 fans. I don't know why that would affect Oregon at all. Maybe early kickoff. It's a 9 Pacific body clock kickoff, but Oregon's going on Thursday. I'm not really concerned about that. The other one I took Texas Tech minus 23.5 at home against Oregon State. The Beavers have not looked impressive in 2 games. They lost to Fresno State, even though you could argue they should have won. One of those games where post-game win expectancy was way in the favor of Oregon State. They lost to Cal in week 1. Both games at home. On the road at Texas Tech. Sammy, I know last weekend Tech cost us. I don't know if Bear was on that wager with me and you, but I think Tech at home, Beavers' first road game, I think they score a ton of points and cover this game.
Luckily, I pushed that one at 48, laying 48. They won by 48. Another fumble and a pounce and a Kent State touchdown. 62-14, just the way they drew it up as a 48-point favorite. I did luckily push that one. I think we should pay a lot of attention to this Florida angle. You know, Florida's not going to be a popular side, understandably so. Nobody's going to want to take Florida. And maybe you've heard Billy Napier should be fired. Maybe you've heard that multiple times this week. Well, that's all built into the line. This number in the summer was LSU 7.5. There's a good chance by Saturday, Bear, we get 10. I will probably end up taking 10 if we get there. It won't be popular. It might not be pretty, but I would get there plus 10.
Yeah, the only thing that worries me is about how bad the Florida offensive line is. They allowed 11 tackles for loss against the powerhouse CW Post LIU. They allowed 7 more in the loss to USF on Saturday. So I have concerns about what that LSU defensive line might do this week, and if DJ Lagway will be upright after the game. So before we go, I think we should probably salute our boy from Kansas State. By the way, this is an angle to potentially look at moving forward. If you look last 3 years, the Dublin loser, 2022, Nebraska lost, went 4-8. 2023, Navy lost, went 5-7. Last year, Florida State lost, went 2-10. This year, your loser, Kansas State, probably coulda, woulda, shoulda be 0-3. They very easily could have lost to one of the Dakotas last week. So I don't know. Moral of the story, maybe we going to maybe pass on this Dublin game. Maybe no one's going to want to play it anymore. But
go to Ireland in the offseason, Bear, not during the season. That's the lesson.
Well, I'm hoping to go to Ireland next year myself because TCU North Carolina is the Dublin game next year, and hopefully Fox will pick it, and hopefully Big Noon Kickoff will be there. But congratulations to my salute to the Kansas State fan who said if Kansas State were going to lose to Army, I'm going to join the Army. So I guess we have a new recruit in the molds there at West Point.
Good for this person to help our country out here. Look, Bear, Sam, you can still get Kansas State at good value to win the Big 12. Just remember that.
No, Kansas State is this year's Clemson, right? All these non-conference losses, they're going to rip through the Big 12 and get to the playoff at 9-3.
Be my guest. I'm not doing
exactly. Have at it. You want to bet Kansas State to win the Big 12? Be my guest. All right, we've got to get this ship back on the road here. Appreciate everybody as always for tuning in, watching us on our Bear Bets YouTube channel. Rate, review, subscribe wherever your podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever else. We'll be back on Thursday. Bear Bets in studio with Geoff and Sammy P from New York. NFL, college football. Friday, Bruce and the Bear. Hopefully, I'll be in Chicago by then, but if not, we'll find the nearest Delta Sky Club and do it again. So for Sammy, for Geoff, I'm Bear. Remember, less you bet, more you lose when you win.